National Assembly, organized labor, others in emergency meeting ahead of planned nationwide strike. Bandit strike, Katsina communities kill 13 people. Remaining abducted Confluence University students rescued. And on the international scene, Sri Lanka shut schools as monsoon kills 14 in flood. Very good evening and welcome to the News Hour on Trust TV. I'm Sagir Ibrahim. The leadership of the National Assembly and the Organized Labor, the NLC, are currently in an emergency meeting seemingly aimed at preventing the proposed nationwide strike. Chaired by the President of the Senate, Senator Godswill Akpabio, the meeting is taking place in the National Assembly complex with the Speaker of the House of Representatives, Tajuddin Abbas, also in attendance. Also present are principal officers, chairmen of various committees from both chambers of the National Assembly. Take a look.
George Akume, the Secretary to the Government of the Federation, SGF, headed the ministerial delegation for the meeting, while Joe Ajaero, President of the NLC, and Festus Asifo, President of the TUC, led the organized labor members. During the meeting, Akpabio emphasized that as lawmakers, they are not assuming the roles of the executive or those of labor. He highlighted the challenge of negotiating while on strike, underscoring the importance of finding common ground through dialogue.
We'll be very glad to have something that is workable, but we must also be mindful of collateral damage. I don't want us to, in the course of trying to arrive at a minimum wage, we end up with a lot of serious issues of unemployment. Because as soon as we arrive at a minimum wage, we'll expect the private sector to also adhere.
The one thing that this country and this government can do to eliminate corruption in the long run is to embrace living wage. There is no two ways about it. But we should also be mindful that the mistakes of several decades cannot be repaired within one day.
The labor union, on their part, say what they are fighting for is living wages for Nigerian workers.
Brothers, you are sisters, and everybody, you are constituents. So, and that is why we must all reason together to find a solution to it. It is not for any of the leadership here. It has to do with all Nigerians and the way forward on this.
It's been the last 3-4 months has been tough, and Nigerians are waiting for us to give them a wage that at least could assist them in paying transportation to work, could feed them, could house them and clothe them. These are the basic necessity of life, not even a wage to buy a car or a wage to build a house.
The meeting has entered into an executive session for them to brainstorm.
The Nigerian Union of Railway Workers, an affiliate of the Nigerian Labour Congress, has announced an indefinite nationwide strike set to commence at midnight on Monday, June 3rd, 2024. The decision to strike stems from what the union perceives as the federal government's insensitivities to two critical issues. Firstly, the government's failure to reach an agreement on a new national minimum wage as directed by organized labor. Secondly, the government's refusal to revert electricity tariffs to 66 naira per kilowatt hour and its implementation of a banded electricity system. According to Francis Igbokwe, the Secretary General of the Nigerian Union of Railway Workers, the federal government did not meet their demands for a minimum wage by the end of May 2024, as previously agreed upon. Furthermore, the union strongly opposes the recent increase in electricity tariffs from 66 naira per kilowatt to 225 naira per kilowatt hour, as well as the categorization of electricity into different bands. In a notice issued over the weekend, Igbokwe called on the railway management to ensure the protection of all critical equipment and cooperation property during the strike. The strike action is expected to significantly disrupt passenger and freight rail services across Nigeria, Passengers planning to travel by train after June 3rd are advised to contact the Nigeria Railway Corporation for the latest information on service availability and alternatives. And joining us now via telephone to discuss this development is Mukhtar Suleiman. He is a public affairs analyst and joins us all the way from Umahia, Abia State. Welcome to the News Hour, Mukhtar. It's seeming like Nigerians have now been caught between the proverbial lion and the deep blue sea. Can you walk me through your initial thoughts and perspectives when you heard that the government and the organized labor have refused to find common ground with regards to the new national minimum wage?
Thank you very much. It's always a pleasure to be here at Trust TV. Being a big friend of the house. Actually, the conversation around minimum wage is kind of like a touchy-feely subject because we're looking at things and we're wondering why it is. On one hand, you're hearing this exorbitant amount of money that some public offices are embezzling, and yet on the other hand, the government is saying that there's no money to fund to pay certain amounts of money for minimum wage because of the high rates of inflation and the skyrocketing their prices have skyrocketed. And well, even as we begin to do all of that, I don't think what we need to do is to pump more money in the hands of people. Because if you do that, it's going to worsen the inflation. If purchasing power go up, the cost of price and commodities will go up. Inflation rates will also go up as well, together with it. And aside from that, I think it's high time the organized labor stops looking at minimum wage from just the government lens. It's also the organized private sector as well. The organized private sector also has to factor in how they're going to pay that over 400,000 that they're asking to do minimum wage. It's not going to be possible for businesses because most businesses are going to struggle significantly for them to be able to reach that amount of money. So I think this is also something where the government, labor unions, and other unions need to also look at. We can't look at it from just the lens of the government alone, because primarily what the labor union is saying is if the 420,000 is approved by the federal government, then the domestic workers, the best meaning the domestic workers in the house should be that 400,000. How much is my salary in the private sector? For me, they work in the private sector, for example. So I think these are things that we also need to consider. We need to consider that there are several nuances around this thing, and we have to be realistic in our demand. I don't think the government will find it very difficult to pay this amount of money because, of course, we know that the government might, at least the big might. But then, consistently for the next 10 years, when our internal generated revenue is depleted as a nation. So I think what Labour should be asking for is a reasonable amount, and I think 60 to 70,000 naira for minimum wage. If you look at the economic realities, it's actually a fair start. So when we start from there, then they should request for other systems and structures to be in place. For example, there should be a good intra-city transport network. Beyond reducing the price for electricity tariff, it is high time we have stable power in this country. What can the government do to ensure this? Let's do the timeline. What can be done a quick thing between now and December? Let's spread stable power the same way telecommunications spread across Nigeria. I mean, the EPSI, the electric sector power, the electricity power sector reform act that was signed into law by President Bola Tinubu last year actually provides for states to set up their regulatory agencies and also begin to generate their own power. I mean, states like the Yaba power plant is already doing that.
Yes, but
states, for example, which is ensuring that there's stable power there. So I think this is something similar that we can do as a country and begin to do this thing. And these are the kind of places that Labour should actually have a very strong role.
Indeed, but Mukhtar, then again, the NLC president on his May Day address mentioned that they cannot guarantee industrial harmony after May 29th. This warning was given, within ample time for the federal government to do what was necessary. Yes, understandable. The organized labor may look to be somewhat overreaching the top with, of course, the minimum wage figure that they've given. But then again, they've also accused the federal government of being insensitive to the plight of majority of Nigerians. Would you say that this stand of the organized labor, is enough to defend the reason why they've brought out this humongous sum of money to the federal government, to at least get some commitment from them.
Again, the government has made its commitment. The government said it's willing to pay 60,000. I don't think we have to keep looking at this thing from the government ends. I think that is where we're making a mistake. It's not just about the government, it's also about the private players and those ones who are also employers of labor. The free trade area that we are watching in Nigeria currently, it's not in its best shape or form. We are buying petrol at premium price to generate primary source of power. That's the problem. Our roads are not good for inter and intra-city transportation. There is the inter and intra-city transportation is very expensive. The way which we are really helped with transporting goods across the country is depleting as fast as it can. I mean, just a few days ago, a few weeks ago, the train from just Kaduna derailed. These are the places I think we should be. These are the places that the organized labor can step on the jugular of the government and say, fix this thing, fix that, and there will be a ripple effect in the economy. But if we go and say we want to demand for more money in the hands of people, we are going to be doing more harm to the economy than good. It's simple economics. I'm not an economist to actually speak to it, but I know that from secondary school economics, this is how inflation is. If there's so much money in the hands of the citizen, it's going to lead to high purchasing power. If there's a high purchasing power, there will be increase in goods and services.
All right.
So I think these are the things that the organized labor. I don't think that the organized labor is they're not fighting a good fight. I just think that their approach could be tilted a little bit more towards sustainable efforts as opposed to what they're doing right now. That is my position.
All right. With regards to recent developments now, Mukhtar, we understand that the National Assembly leadership, with the inclusion of the Secretary of the Government of the Federation, are currently meeting with the organized labor. You're a communication strategist. Tell us what the optics is looking like, especially for Nigerians who are currently seeing these National Assembly members as probably some of the people who take home bumper pay and who should be, giving some of self-sacrifice in order to ensure that Nigerians have enough money and to sustain itself, of course.
I agree. For the longest time, the politicians have always told us that there is a need for us to downsize in our spending. We will have to do a lot of adjustments of the people. But it is one thing for the politicians to be telling us that, and another thing for them to be looking like they local. So I think the government needs to also check itself as well. And I think the organized labor needs to, since the National Assembly and the senators are not doing their good job of due diligence to ensure that there is a lot of checks and balances for the executive arm of government, I think this is where the organized labor is going to come in to speak for the common man. This is why I said I don't think that their priorities are displayed. I just think that there are better ways that they could have approached these issues that would ensure that it's sustainable and long-term effect on Nigerians, as opposed to just requesting for more money in the hands of people. That's what I think. So now that we are having this meeting and this conversation, I think this also shows that the government is willing to negotiate. We've seen in the past where it was very difficult to get the government to come to the table. I mean, in the past administration, we saw ministers who walked away from meetings. The level of impunity from government was horrible. But we've seen the things of the more listening ear now. But whether the listening ear will translate to actions is something that we can debate as well. I don't think that this government has done really well in rolling out its policies. I think there are lots of lapses in how they've actually carried out some of the activities and the policies that they've rolled out. But telling us to adjust every single time is not a measure in any way. So I think the government can do better. I also think that the organized labor should also understand that even 100K, I think it's too much money we have in circulation because again, if I'm going to have to pay even my cleaner 100,000 in my house as minimum wage, because I make it a point of responsibility to ensure I pay minimum wage to my domestic staff. So if I have to pay my domestic staff 100,000 naira, how much then is the left of my salary for me to use for myself as well? Because that will then become the standard and the barest minimum I'm supposed to actually pay for her to actually based on the law of the country. So how many percent of our salary increase will I also get from my organization? So all of these things need to be things that we need to also compare. We have to consider the whole instead of the part because this is the sector. So we have to also consider the organized private sector as much as the country in the government. And I look at it just only from the lens of the government as well.
All right, Mukhtar Suleiman, Public Affairs Analyst, joining us all the way from Umahia in Abia State. Thank you so much for the perspectives. And of course, definitely, we hope that the meeting with the organized labor and the National Assembly members will yield a fruitful result. Do have a good evening. Yes, that was Mukhtar Suleiman there, all the way from Abia State. Moving on and still staying with issues around minimum wage negotiation. As negotiation on the minimum wage between the organized labor and the federal government continues, Nigerians are beginning to bear their minds. Now, according to residents of Imo State, the proposed 60,000 naira by the federal government is not enough to help Nigerians cope with the current economic challenges. Trust TV's Ajibade Praise tells us more in this report. And we'll bring you that report in subsequent bulletins. Moving on, as a result of heavy downpour and windstorm on Saturday night, 5 people were confirmed dead and 3 sustained varying degrees of injuries at the just concluded Northeast Trade Fair in Bauchi State. The Public Relations Officer of Abubakar Tafawa Balewa University Teaching Hospital in Bauchi confirmed the incident. Trust TV's Adamu Imam brings us details.
While confirming the incident, Usman Abdullahi Koli, the Public Relations Officer of Abubakar Tafawa Balewa University Teaching Hospital in Bauchi, said via a telephone call that they received several casualties from the scene. Unfortunately, 2 were brought in dead on the spot with severe injuries from the head to the abdomen and died shortly after arrival. 3 others with multiple fractures are responding to treatment. Some eyewitnesses who occupied the attached shops at the trade fair lamented the destruction caused by the windstorm, attributing it to the use of substandard materials by the contractors. Yesterday, we were here at the trade fair and we saw a windstorm cover everywhere close to the Bauchi State Pavilion shortly after it started to rain. And then we heard people shouting, "To God we belong and to Him we shall return." Immediately, we saw the Yobe State Pavilion building collapse. We were at our residence when we heard about the incident. We rushed over and found out that our neighbor had already died. Some people were rescued and evacuated, while 4 others died on the spot. Many people had taken shelter in the buildings because of the heavy rain, and when the pavilion collapsed, we accept it as God's will for them to die here. I participated in the rescue of the victims. 1 man close to my shop, we evacuated his corpse from the rubble. Others sustained serious injuries with fractured legs. We carried one to the hospital, but he also died, along with a man selling rubber goods nearby.
We arrived and saw people being evacuated, but I cannot give an account of what happened. However, during the construction of this trade fair, they used to hide the truth. They wouldn't allow the governor to inspect the construction, saying everything was going smoothly. Now the blame is on the constructors, honestly.
In his response via a telephone call, the State Commissioner of Commerce and Industry, Mahamud Babama Aji, who is in charge of the trade fair complex, confirmed the destruction caused by the heavy rainfall and windstorm around 8:30 to 9 p.m. on Saturday night. He added that the state government is deeply concerned about the incident and is doing everything possible to prevent their occurrence. He emphasized that it's not the time to place a blame on the contractor or any individuals. More so, according to him, the state government ordered the closure of the trade fair completely henceforth. Adam Imam, Trust TV News, Bauchi.
And several communities in the Karfi and Marabar Kankara wards of the Malamfashi local government area in Katsina State recently faced a devastating bandit attack, resulting in the tragic loss of about 18 lives. The affected villages, Gidankare and Yerteba, were targeted by the bandits during the night when many residents were asleep. The assailants ransacked the villages, indiscriminately firing gunshots and causing grievous injuries to several residents. Those wounded are currently undergoing treatment in hospitals in Malumfashi and Katsina. A resident of Yerteba who requested anonymity for security reasons revealed that the bandits operated for over 2 hours without any intervention from security forces despite numerous distress calls made by the villagers. In addition to the loss of lives, the bandits also abducted several individuals, predominantly women, and issued threats to prevent locals from farming during the rainy season, warning of dire consequences for those who defy their orders. The traumatized residents are urgently calling on the government to deploy security personnel to the area to prevent further attacks and ensure the safety of the affected communities. As of now, there has been no official statement from either security agencies or government officials in Katsina State regarding the incident. Earlier we spoke with Trust TV reporter in the state, Abdullah Yamadi. He gives this update.
At the moment, normalcy is gradually returning to Erteba and Gidankari communities. This is coming even as some of the villages are still missing. A resident of Erteba village confirmed that the whereabouts of about 8 people is yet to be known because they are neither with the bandits nor in the community. And another fundamental issue is that the warning issued by the bandits restraining the villagers from cultivating their farms is still a worrisome issue. And the villagers are saying farming is the only source of their livelihood, expressing fear that if nothing is done by the government, they would be left with no other option than to relocate to other places perceived safer, appealing to the government to come to their aid. A few hours ago, the bandits called the villagers, demanding the sum of 12 million naira ransom to secure the release of their abducted members of their communities. However, the villagers categorically told the bandits that they don't have the money and they may not likely have any effort or rather make any effort to mobilize such huge amount of money, believing that it is not something they can do at this critical moment, saying doing so may likely make them more vulnerable or easy prey to the bandits. So honestly, this is the situation at Erteba and Gidankari communities of Malumfashi local government. The situation is worrisome because rainy season sets in everywhere across Katsina State and of course northern Nigeria. And the only hope these people have is famine. And these bandits are all out, wreaking havoc almost everywhere and warning farmers not to attempt going to their farms or cultivating their farms. So this is a very worrisome situation, and farmers are appealing to the government to at least do something about it, to protect them, give them protection, give them security to enable them access their farms, cultivate their farms, at least to have food to put on their tables.
And still on security, the National State Police Command has announced the arrest of 4 individuals for alleged theft in Lafia, the headquarters of Lafia local government in Nasarawa State. According to DSP Rahman Nansel, the spokesperson for the command, the arrests were made following complaints lodged at a division in Lafia regarding a burglary at an electronics store situated at Rimi Uku, Lafia on Saturday, 1st June 2024. Among those apprehended are Saad Kashina, 24 years old, Bawa Saidu, 30 years old, Sagir Muhammad, 28 years old, and Isiaka Muhammad, 20 years old, all males from Doma and Lafia local government areas of the state. Recovered from the suspects were 4 Capital solar batteries and 2 32-inch LG television sets. Further investigation revealed that the suspects confessed to selling 4 laptops, parts of the stolen items in Makudi, the Benue State capital, for 30,000 naira each. Additionally, a case of theft reported at Masaka Division led to the arrest of one Bisan Mark of Angwan Mission, Masaka. A search warrant executed at his residence resulted in the recovery of a locally fabricated revolver pistol and a knife as exhibits. DSP Nansel confirmed that the Commissioner of Police, Umar Shehu Nadada, has instructed divisional police officers to conduct thorough investigations into the cases and ensure the suspects are charged to court for prosecution as a deterrent to others. And in another development, all of the kidnapped students of the Confluence University of Science and Technology of Sara Kogi State have been rescued, according to the State's Commissioner for Information and Communications, Kingsley Fowl. He stated that the government is making efforts to ensure the safety of all residents of the state. In a statement issued on Sunday, Fowl mentioned that Governor Usman Ododo directed full support toward the recovery of the students and their parents, while also implementing measures to make Kogi safer for all. The kidnappers invaded the university on Thursday, May 9, 2024, around 9 p.m. and abducted some students who were in their classrooms preparing for their forthcoming examinations. 3 days later, the Kogi State Police Command reported that security operatives rescued 14 students. While 2 students were tragically killed by the gunmen, 8 students were held captive by the kidnappers. In the latest statement, the Kogi State government acknowledged President Bola Tinubu for mobilizing resources to ensure the safe rescue of the students. Fowl also praised the local hunters and operatives of the Nigeria Security and Civil Defense Corps for their collaboration with other security agencies. And away from that, residents of Peter Ajibola Street in Oshogbo, Osun State, narrowly survived a horrific auto crash as a trailer tumbled onto the street, causing extensive damage to a residential building and nearby shops. Trust TV's Hamid Oyegbade brings details.
The accident occurred due to narrow nature of Peter Ajibola Street, which also features several sharp bends and corners. As the trailer was negotiating a sharp bend on the T-junction towards Bobagunwa Street, it tumbled over. Residents of the area are urging government to implement measures to prevent such accidents from occurring frequently in the area.
I think, this particular street is a community road. It's due to the divert that was made in Okefia. So now, I think what we need here now is all these things that used to stop all these big trucks.
We should have a barricade at the entrance of this street and at the entrance of the other street too, from Riverside. I think that will curb accidents from happening on this street. And those that are affected are much. They are seriously affected. I think one of the houses that is there was seriously affected. And there are people that are selling things beside. Even our transformer is affected. The transformer has affected the old Peter Ajibola and even to Odofin sides.
They don't plan the exit for those to be diverted to other roads. And it was unfortunate that it took the intervention of the people before they even do that Peter Ajibola road. Unfortunately, there are many detours and corners around that axis that is actually endangering a lot of people's life. There is need for us to plan ahead as government. Where are we diverting small car, small vehicle, and I load a truck.
The police public relations officer for Osun State Police Command, Yemisi Opalola, said necessary steps have been taken to evacuate the trailer so as to allow vehicular movement in the area. Hamid Oyegbade, Trust TV News, Osogbo.
Launching the news hour on Trust TV, coming up shortly. Keeping the legacy of traditional trades alive as modernity takes over. These and of course other stories when we return. Join us again. Thanks for staying with the news hour on Trust TV. Now a recap of the major stories again. National Assembly organized labor others in emergency meeting ahead of planned nationwide strike. And bandits strike Katsina communities, kill 13. And now we'll circle back to stories around minimum wage as the negotiation on minimum wage continues between the organized labor and the federal government. Nigerians are beginning to bear their minds. According to residents of Imo State, the proposed 60,000 naira by the federal government is not enough to help Nigerians cope with the current economic challenges. Trust TV's Ajibade Praise tells us more in this report.
Residents of Imo State, southeastern Nigeria, are saying the federal government is not sensitive to the plight of the masses. They said the move by the Nigerian Labour Congress, NLC, to demand for better welfare package for Nigerians workers is a welcome development.
And there are many pharmacies are crying, many people are crying, and I think the minimum wage should be in Nigeria, let it be at least 100k.
Speak out about the minimum wage in the country because of the high rate of high prices of things like feeding and so on. So we are suffering for it. So I'm here to speak out about the minimum wages, that government should do something about it to increase our minimum wage.
Currently, when you look at what people are earning or are earning currently, it is nothing compared to the current economic status. Looking at the price of things in the market is nothing to write home about. People go to the market and they eventually come back empty-handed. So when you get your pay at the end of the month, and you go to the market, you end up spending almost everything, and you'll be left with nothing for the remaining part of the month. So I think the government should do something.
They said the minimum wage for workers should be 100,000 and above, considering the hardship facing the people across the country.
The current minimum wage is very poor. Everybody knows that. Even the average family cannot live on that. So let's say 100,000, it's fairly okay, not even okay. If you look around now, even with 60,000, you cannot go to the market and buy what you want. Not to talk of living on it for a month.
I think the minimum wage of this country should be up to at least 100%.
100,000?
Yeah, 100,000 and above at least. Because with the high cost of things in the market right now, things are very, very expensive. Imagine someone collecting salary of 30,000 naira and things are very expensive. A bag of rice is up to 72,000 naira. At least if minimum wage is up to 100,000 naira, things will make sense.
I think the minimum wage of Nigeria should be around that 100, 150 for everyone, including the sweeper. You see the situation of Nigeria now, things are very difficult for everyone. Imagine a pint of tomatoes is cost 11,000. Tell me, how will someone survive of this? If a sweeper is earning 20,000, how can they feed their family?
The people are hopeful that the Bola Tinubu-led federal government and the Labour Congress will reach the middle ground on the issue of the minimum wage soonest. This, they believe, will help Nigerians come out of the burdens brought on them by the ongoing economic reforms. Ajibade Praise, Trust TV News, Owerri.
Thanks to Ajibade for that report. And Katsina State is a state with a rich cultural heritage that has been passed down for centuries. Now, with the growing metropolitan culture and modernization, these traditions, which have been part of the livelihood of the people, are facing an existential threat. In this report, Jamil Mabai tells the story of locals who are defying the odds to keep family legacies alive. Take a look.
This is Chake Market, where young people work hard to carry on the trades of their ancestors. Samaila is one of these dedicated vendors, upholding tradition by selling unique items like gora, a paste used as ink by Islamic scholars, mushia, an essential ingredient for a popular local dish, and tandu, a cosmetic used by women.
We inherited it from our father. It pays my bills and that of others as well. One has to be patient and remain faithful to God.
Old businesses are fast fading away in a state rich with cultural heritage. The customers are mostly elderly, and their numbers have shrunk considerably as many have passed away. This leaves the younger generation, Gen Z, who rarely visits markets like this and are often unaware that these products even exist.
Mostly our customers are the elderly people.
This challenge is familiar to Saminu Makera as well. He inherited his business selling traditional stoves and cooking pots from his mother. Due to the current hike in fuel prices and the overall economic downturn, people are looking for more cost-saving options to manage their daily lives.
This is a charcoal cooking stove.
Despite the obstacles, Samaila is determined to persevere. Jamil Mabai, Trust TV, Katsina.
And to other stories now, operatives of the National Drug Law Enforcement Agency have arrested a 70-year-old grandfather in Nasarawa State with 57.2 kilograms of cannabis, as disclosed by NDLEA spokesman Femi Babafemi in a statement on Sunday. Additionally, 2 suspects were apprehended in Ekiti State with 426 kilograms of cannabis. Meanwhile, the NDLEA intercepted codeine-based syrup and loud, a synthetic cannabis strain worth over 2.1 billion naira at the Port Harcourt Seaport and the Murtala Mohammed International Airport in Lagos. At the Lagos Airport, NDLEA officers, in collaboration with other security agencies, intercepted a large consignment of loud packed in 8 suitcases containing 320 parcels with a total weight of 164.50 kilograms of the strong psychoactive substance coming from Canada. The suspect, Ugenu Naife Francis, who attempted to smuggle the suitcases out of the airport, claimed to be a resident of Germany, recruited as a mule to transport the drug to Nigeria for a fee of 6 million naira. And in business, the OPEC Plus group of oil-producing nations agreed on Sunday to extend their production cuts in a bid to support prices amid ongoing economic and geopolitical uncertainty. The 12-member oil cartel and its 10 allies decided to extend the level of overall crude oil production starting January 1st, 2025 until December 31st, 2025, according to a statement by the alliance. Additionally, 8 countries, Saudi Arabia, Russia, Iraq, United Arab Emirates, Kuwait, Kazakhstan, Algeria, and Oman, announced they would extend voluntary supply cuts made at Riyadh's request for further support the market. Some of these cuts will run until September before being phased out, while others will remain in place until December 2025. The decision follows the biannual meeting of the Organization of Petroleum Exporting Countries, led by Saudi Arabia and its 10 partners, headed by Russia. The group-wide supply cuts total about 2 million barrels a day, including the voluntary cuts. OPEC Plus members are currently reducing output by almost 6 million barrels per day overall to bolster sagging oil prices. OPEC Plus also agreed to allow the United Arab Emirates to increase its production target by 300,000 barrels per day for next year. And joining us now via telephone to give perspective is Mr. Sunday Michael, the Group Business Editor of the Daily Trust. Good evening and welcome to the News Hour, Mr. Sunday. Yes, can you please make sense of all of these developments, especially regarding OPEC Plus and the reason to reach this oil cuts?
Good evening and thanks for having me. Essentially, oil prices have been dwindling, maybe not so much, but basically around the point where major oil producers think they are not drawing sufficient value for the amount of oil they are pumping into the market. So the OPEC plus agreement essentially is an agreement between OPEC country and some major oil producers that are not exactly members of the Organization of Petroleum Exporting Countries to reduce the glut in the market. They are just basically playing with economic metrics of demand and supply, and they think that by the time they reduce the glut in the market, prices may appreciate somewhat, and that would give producers value rather than throw so much in the market and draw very little value from it.
Okay, Sunday, in all of this, one would ask what benefits would Nigeria be getting from it, especially when you look at the fact that an increase in oil prices might mean some gain for Nigeria, but then again, the fuel subsidy has been removed, so it might not translate to any form of gain for Nigerians.
The Nigerian situation is one of a dilemma. Right now, this country needs all the dollars that it can get. An increase in price in a way, will get us some of those extra dollars. But correctly, as you have mentioned, we will also deal with the dilemma of the increased prices of the increased pump price. But what is interesting about this is, for instance, the reassurance on the other hand that the Dangote refinery will start pumping PMS into the Nigerian market by June. If you recall the words of the president of the Dangote Group, himself, Alhaji Aliko Dangote, assuring that we would virtually not need to import, a single liter of fuel by June this year. So if Dangote refinery, coupled with Port Harcourt and Warri, for instance, can meet our daily production need, then we can basically say we will save ourselves, as a nation from all of the foreign exchange that we need to import fuel into Nigeria. So on the other hand, that is something to look forward to. But what is even the biggest challenge for Nigeria is but without OPEC, which has currently even retained our current production quota, without them even cutting or increasing, we are struggling to meet the OPEC demand right now. Exactly. We are doing about 1.4 million naira, crude oil. We are doing another 300. Yes, and we are doing another 300 million from condensates, which are just add-ons. So we are really not where we should be as a country. If you go back to the budget, we have told ourselves that we were aiming at 2.2 million barrels per day. So it's still a long way for us to go, even at to meet our own local standard, which is what we need to do right now. If we're able to do that, then we will be on the way to earn more dollars. Even the Dangote refinery is struggling to get crude supply from the Nigerian side, if you recall. It has had to augment with crude from the United States. So there's so much quantity shock that we are dealing with, and that is something we have to do something about.
All right then, Sunday Michael, Group Business Editor for the Daily Trust. Thank you so much for your perspectives on the issue, and definitely we hope that the Dangote refinery would begin supplying PMS to the market soonest to ease the burden on Nigerians, of course. Have a good evening.
Thank you very much.
Yes, indeed. And you're still watching the News Hour on Trust TV. And to other news away from Nigeria, flash floods, mudslides and fallen trees have claimed the lives of at least 14 people in Sri Lanka as the island nation grapples with monsoon storms, the country's disaster center reported on Sunday. Some victims drowned, including 3 members of the same family who were swept away near the capital, Colombo, on Sunday. Others were tragically buried alive in mudslides, including an 11-year-old girl and a 20-year-old man, according to the Disaster Management Center. 9 additional fatalities occurred when trees fell on individuals in 7 districts since the monsoon intensified on May 21, the DMC stated. While Sri Lanka relies on seasonal monsoon rain for irrigation and hydroelectricity, experts warn of more frequent floods due to climate change-induced global warming. The DMC reported that heavy rain had affected 20 out of the country's 25 districts, issuing warnings to residents living along main rivers to seek higher ground. Arriving flights at Colombo's main international airport were diverted to a smaller airport, and several key highways were flooded at various exits. And also on the final day of voting in India's election, tragedy struck as scorching temperatures claimed the lives of at least 33 polling staff due to heat stroke in Uttar Pradesh, one of the country's northern states. The extreme heat wave, with temperatures soaring above 45 degrees Celsius in many areas, resulted in a devastating toll, particularly among those working outdoors. According to Navdeep Rinwar, the chief electoral officer for Uttar Pradesh, the casualties included polling personnel, security guards, and sanitation staff. Additionally, a distressing incident occurred in Balia, where a voter waiting in line lost consciousness due to the intense heat. Dehydration and extreme heat exposure can lead to thickening of the blood and organ failure, exacerbating the risk of fatalities in such conditions. While India has long experienced scorching summers, scientific evidence suggests that climate change is intensifying heat waves, making them longer and more frequent. Meanwhile, as the nation grapples with this tragic loss, Hindu nationalist Prime Minister Narendra Modi appears poised for a significant victory in the elections, as indicated by exit polls. Modi, seeking a 3rd consecutive term, expressed confidence in his success as voting concluded on Saturday. The official election results are scheduled to be announced on Tuesday. And in sports, Fishayo Dele Bashiru, the 23-year-old attacking midfielder born in Germany and currently playing for Hatayspor in Turkey, has touched down in Nigeria in preparation for the Super Eagles 2026 World Cup qualifiers against South Africa and Benin Republic. Dele Bashiru received his first international call-up from former Eagles coach Jose Peseiro last year for a friendly match against Mozambique. After landing in Lagos on Friday night, Dele Bashiru is scheduled to catch a 3 p.m. flight to Uyo to report to camp. Nigeria is set to face South Africa and Benin Republic in the World Cup 2026 qualifiers in June. And also, Kylian Mbappe has finalized his much-anticipated transfer to Real Madrid after both parties agreed on terms, according to reports. Mbappe had previously announced his departure from Paris Saint-Germain at the end of his contract in May, where he held the title of the club's all-time record goal scorer. The 25-year-old's future had been subject to intense speculation as the Spanish giants sought to bring the Frenchman to the Bernabeu despite PSG's insistence that their star striker was not for sale. While Mbappe had hinted at joining a new club, he remained elusive about revealing the name of the club. Similarly, sports journalist Fabrizio Romano reported that the 15-time UEFA Champions League winners would officially announce the signing of the player. Also, Zhilei Zhang's explosive right hook knocked out Deontay Wilder in the 5th round of their showdown in Riyadh on Sunday. Both fighters were looking to make a statement as their respective losses to Joseph Parker had raised doubts about their ability as heavyweight contenders. Zhang appeared more likely to score a knockout with a flurry of punches and a big right hook in the second round, sending Wilder to the ropes. Wilder attempted to start sprightly in the fourth and fifth rounds, but lacked the lethal punching power he's known for, opting for a more cautious approach. Instead, the former WBC champion was left days after having his head bounced off the ring mat. He eventually succumbed to the constant pressure from the Chinese boxer, falling to the canvas and facing a seemingly impossible recovery battle. Wilder tried to beat the referee's count, but was left on the receiving end of a devastating stoppage. Wilder's proposed fight with Anthony Joshua now looks unlikely, as many speculate the former champion is considering retirement. And before we go, here's a kicker. Let's take a look at how Nigerians are promoting a secular approach to industrial growth and growing rubber cycling operation at the same time. Take a look.
A lot of people have been worried by the amount of waste generated and the impact it's having on our ecosystem, the wildlife, as well as human health. Also, the desire for social impact was one of the motivating factors, not just to make a positive difference in our community, but also to see recycling as a way to reduce waste, conserve resources, and improve overall quality of life. Technology, all our technologies are imported. To fabricate some of the parts in country has been a nightmare. Sometimes you get it right, sometimes you get it wrong. When you get it wrong, that's money just down the drain. Power is one of the issues that we are currently faced with. The machine that you see behind me is currently running on a diesel generator, which itself is not clean and is not sustainable. So we're currently working to see how we can migrate to a cleaner source of energy. And then you have access to funding. There could be several other people attempting to do what we're doing, but it is capital intensive and requires specialized funding.
What did he say after you? What I used to do, that's why you said.
Made from, and the fact that they'll be able to wear this, sandals for a very, very long time.
Ifedolakwa has demonstrated a lot of very good things. Free Recycle is doing amazing stuff that we feel should be scaled not just across Africa but globally. We're hoping that with the sale of items like this and the online shop, people will see what she is doing. The visibility will be scaled tremendously, and she's going to begin to get contacts, for, supplies.
The first question that I asked her was, where are those tires from? Are they from Ibadan or are they from Lagos? Embodying the principles of a circular economy. Our journey does not end here.
But every day I wake up is an opportunity to tackle some of these challenges, do things differently, set an example for other women out there who want to go into the sector, be it even the sector or any other sector, to know that anything is possible, anything is doable if you set your mind to it. And do not be shy to seek out support. I think sometimes we're quiet about what we need. You have to be very, very vocal. Gone are the days where women were, you had a seat at the table, but you didn't have a voice.
Before you leave the premises, thank you so much.
And that wraps up the news hour on Trust TV. Do not forget to follow us across all of our social platforms and join our live stream on YouTube for more news programs and documentaries. My name is Sagir Ibrahim, and on behalf of the crew, have a good night.